Welcome to another episode of Strictly Hockey Talk. I'm your host, Nick Bondi, joined by Tanbir and Brian. As usual, boys, how's it going? First week of or so of the NHL playoffs, off to a great start. A lot of great games. How are you guys feeling?
Honestly, man, like the playoffs have been incredible to start. A lot of series, a lot of low scoring series, but every single one of these games, even when they are low scoring, there's so much action, tons of action. The crowds that we haven't seen in a long time, finally getting that TV time, like the Philadelphia Flyers yesterday, and the Buffalo Sabres crowds have been incredible. And then also, some young teams that are just not afraid of the moment, Utah and Anaheim, and young players that are not afraid of the moment. Logan Stankoven and Jackson Blake, who I glaze up at least once a podcast. So I just feel like the playoffs have just been living up to the hype, and usually the first round does, and then it starts to slow down as the playoffs go. But couldn't ask for a better playoffs to start.
No, I agree with Tanvir. Like I always say, I don't usually agree with Tanvir on many topics, but the playoffs have been fun, man. There's nothing better than the NHL playoffs, right? So, um, I agree. There's young teams out there who really don't. I, I think they don't really know what's going on out here, right? Like the Anaheim Ducks, for example, yesterday, 6 goals on Edmonton, Utah, 1-1 series tied against Vegas. Like it or not, Porter Martone and the Flyers, pretty decently young team, a few good young players the Tampa was talking about. Forgot to mention Martone. He's actually been really impressive in the playoffs, but overall, it's been fun. The first round, I think, is always the best one because you get the juices flowing right off the bat, right? But like I said, there's nothing better than NHL playoffs, and we're living the dream, man.
Yeah, it's been a great start to the playoffs. I guess we can start with the most advanced series, or I guess one of the two, because Ottawa, at the time of recording, as of now, Ottawa and Carolina are still playing. So
It's
we can.
over.
It's
Uh,
over.
Car-
2-1.
Carolina, Carolina won.
2-1 Carolina. Okay, so we can start there. Immediate, strictly hockey talk reaction to the Canes going up 3-0 in the series. I'm not that surprised. I thought Carolina would take care of business um, pretty handily in that series, and we've talked about Carolina um, last episode, right? This is kind of their make or break year to finally get over the hump and go to the Stanley Cup Finals. The big bad Florida Panthers aren't there anymore. Um, there's no real big team in the East that's maybe threatening outside of maybe Tampa, maybe Montreal if they get out of this series. So, the path's there for them. They still got to win that final game, as the old cliche goes. That's always the toughest in the series. But, 3-0, and all those games have been pretty low scoring, right? It's not like they've, blown the brakes off Ottawa, but they've done what they needed to do to win. And that's kind of been Carolina's MO all season, right? Not a team that's going to run up the score, but they're going to play solid hockey and they're going to win.
Yeah, like I thought this series would be a lot tighter, and the games have reflected that with the one goal games, and the game two going to overtime. But being up 3-0, like I didn't expect that. Like I did expect it to be a 6 game series. But you know what? Carolina just seems different this year. And I've always been a hater in the past. I've always believed that the analytics people that glazed up Tulski and the Carolina Hurricanes were just, out to lunch at times and didn't feel like Carolina had uh, enough skilled players to get over the hump against good teams like the New York Rangers or the Florida Panthers in the past. But this year feels a little different. This year, like their third line, I don't know if you're paying attention to their third line, but it's basically produced all the offense for the Carolina Hurricanes with Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, and my guy Jackson Blake. They're just dominating out there. Every time they're out there, they're creating offense. And a lot of it might have to do with the matchups, right? They're not getting the toughest defensive matchups. But the fact is, they have more skill on their team than they have in the past because younger players like Blake have come in and have fit in perfectly and getting roles in playing second unit power play and getting a lot of offensive zone time. Like the kid's a magician out there, and it's really helping the Canes. score goals in important moments. For Ottawa, Nick, this is a second straight year now where they've fallen 0-3 to their opponent. Like, I don't know if that has to do with, the core group that they have there. Maybe it's Travis Green and the coaching staff, but it's not a good look. It's not a good look for a team who, like, I was very high on them going into the year. I thought they could win the division. And if they got a good enough goaltending at the start of the year, maybe they would have won the division. And I still do believe that they're one of the top four teams in the Eastern Conference. But at the end of the day, the draw is the draw, and they finished, eighth in the Eastern Conference, and they have to play the Carolina Hurricanes.
Well, that's what people, if you were thinking that Ottawa would pull off the upset or be a close series, that's what you're banking on, right? That, they had some of the worst goaltending in the league. I think we've talked about this on the podcast before. There would be literally like 18 to 20 points higher in the standings if they just had league average goaltending. And Ullmark, to his credit, he was playing better down the stretch. So I think if you
Well,
were, an Ottawa guy for this series, that's what you were hanging your hat on. But I mean, they like you said, like they haven't played that bad. As long as they've been blown out in any of these games, it just hasn't been enough against like a really deep Carolina team.
it's the same story as last year's series against the Leafs. Every game went to overtime. It was one goal games, and they go down 0-3. They rally off a couple of wins in between there, but it's a little too late.
Well, you
That,
can't even blame like Linus Lomberg in this series. I think
He played well game two, yeah.
he played well today as well. I think he has over 929 30 save percent in this series. Usually when a goaltender has like a 929 30 save percentage, you're on the other side of the wins. But it's just that the Carolina Hurricanes are a well-structured team. The third, it's not the third line, by the way, the second line. I don't even know who the third line. I think the third line is Jordan Stahl. But the point being, a team that's got Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis, you know, three legitimate good star players, and their best players have been who? Stankoven and Jackson Blake, right? Jackson Blake has silky smooth skating ability, puck handling, wicked wrist shot. Stankoven feels like he scores every game now, right? Creativity and the snipe of a shot he has, but Linus Lomberg hasn't been the issue. It's at 3 goals in 3 games for the Ottawa Senators, right? The offense has completely dried up, right? And the big concern, I know Twitter is going to be jumping crazy on the Senator side. Brady Tkachuk has been absolutely doing nothing in the series, right? Absolutely nothing. Yes,
In classic Kachuk fashion, he had to make it
I
all
will
about
say this.
himself and
I will,
try and make a big show of it and fight Jordan Stahl off the opening face off of game one.
what are you
That's
doing?
it, and that's all he's
You're
done.
not supposed to do that at the visitor's rink. Do that at your own home rink, different crowd, right? But I think injuries do kind of playing the Ottawa. They lost Jake Sanderson today. And they lost Artem Zub today as well. That's two of their top defensemen, right? So you can't be having Thomas Chabot play 25, 30 minutes, Tyler Clevin playing 25, 30 minutes, and the players like that. Jordan Spence has been a good warrior for them, but 30 minutes, 25 plus for Jordan Spence, like they're playing out of their position, right? But overall, I think it's been a close series. 2-0 game one, 3-2 in double overtime last game, and now 2-1. It just the offense dried up. The power play has no idea what the fuck they're doing. They had a lot of chances today. Maybe it's a Travis Green situation. And I know Tam Beers will probably smiling inside of what's it gonna be when I'm mentioning Travis Green. But if they get swept, you gotta make some big changes to that core, don't you? And it starts with number 7, who wears the captaincy, doesn't it?
No, they're not gonna. I don't think unless he tells them he wants out, they're not trading him.
Well, then he's got to put more effort in.
I don't
Like
think effort's the issue. I just don't think he's as good as a lot of people believe he is. Like, Tim Stützle is their best player.
100%, I
Tim
agree.
does driving play for them. I see Batherson out there working. I don't think
Dylan Cousins has no quit attitude. Ridley
yeah.
Grant, Shane Pinto, but the difference is the captain is not in that conversation.
Yeah, well, he's not as good as people believe he is. And I'll like that's just my take. He's a T'Chak, so the name is, you know, it's more bigger than the play on the ice, in my opinion. But um I just don't believe him. Even Matthew, like he doesn't play. Like he's got a lot of gold. He's got a gold medal and two Stanley Cups. But if you look at his numbers, they're whatever. He relies on a lot of his teammates to get the job done. At the end of the day, they're regular season players, which is crazy to think of because the way the Chucks play, you think they'd be playoff guys, but they don't. Like there was that the power play at 5-on-3 today. They had a chance to tie the game on a 5-on-3,
What the
and
fuck's going on there?
it was lifeless. It was bad. And the Ottawa Senators, like I said, I was high on them going into the year, and they probably could have finished higher in the standings if their goaltending was better at the start. But when you run into a team like Carolina, who's battle tested, has been like a contender for the last 4 or 5 years, they're ready. They're ready to take that next step, I believe, and that's why I had them winning this series in six. Probably, the games are close. The games are close, but the series isn't at the end.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of response because you said Tampa like last year, they go down 3-0, they win those two games and force a game six. But yeah, like it'll be interesting to see what their response is.
Last year it was this core's first kick of the can, technically, right? And it just happened to be against Toronto, down 3-0, but you showed a little effort, made it 3-2. I honestly thought when they made it 3-2, they were going to come back. The Toronto mentally, the core players from Toronto is not, they're not there. But this is second kick of the can. You're down 3-0 again. Like, what's going on here? I understand it's been close on the scoreboard, but realistically, like Tambier mentioned, I don't think it's close on the ice, right?
Well, Carolina's not shooting them every game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other series that's 3-0 is the Philadelphia Flyers. Tanner, do you want to take a victory lap on this one, or do you want me to say my piece first?
Stay your piece. I don't need to take a victory lap. I was confident going in for a reason.
I mean, I think I'm kicking myself because why did I think a team led by the most overrated GM in NHL history, Kyle Dumbass, would put together a team that could do anything in the playoffs? I'm more mad at myself for believing that there's all these stats about the Flyers and the underlying numbers, and they didn't all these teams have always been like lost in the first round. I don't know why I put my faith in a Kyle Dumbass led team. I'm more mad at myself than anything.
Honestly, like it's hard to bet against Sid. Like that guy is the greatest player of our generation. And I was doing the bracket challenge solo on this Strictly Hockey Talk YouTube channel last week, and I was wearing my Crosby jersey, and I picked the Flyers. And the reason I picked the Flyers was I just believe that youth, especially youth, that the Philadelphia Flyers have, the culture that they're building under Rick Tocchet, is always a good bet in a playoff series. And I was shocked at how many people were taking the Pittsburgh Penguins to win this series. First off, going into the year, the Pittsburgh Penguins were nowhere on our radar to be a playoff team. They were projected to be in the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes, but they had a surprising year. They got production out of guys like Anthony Mantha, and Chinnikov came in and made an impact. And obviously Crosby and Malkin were going to do their thing, but they still had an older team. And when you have Stu Skinner in that as well, Stuart
That's a
Skinner,
tough one.
it just
I'm shocked after game two they didn't switch it up and go to Shelovs.
yeah, I was shocked too because I think Seelovs is a bigger game player than Stuart Skinner. But ultimately, I don't like betting against Sidney Crosby, but this felt like a spot where the Flyers youth was going to prevail. And like, if you just watched the season this year, if you just watched hockey all season long, there was not a team that took my money more than the Pittsburgh Penguins. I was fading them nonstop all year long, and it wasn't going well for me. But I was also winning a lot of money betting on the Philadelphia Flyers. And the way they played hockey was, in my opinion, more sustainable down the stretch than a team like Pittsburgh. And Talkis just got these guys playing incredible defensive hockey. And then you let the skill take over from Tippett and Zegras and Michkov and the new kid on the block, Porter Martone. Like it's fun to watch. It's fun to see a Philadelphia team have this kind of success especially under a coach that I believed in a lot. Like I've said my piece about Rick Tocchet. I don't like that he quit on the Canucks, and he did quit on the Canucks, but he had an opportunity to go to a place where he was familiar with in Philadelphia and have and bring back playoff hockey, and he did. Those remember Flyer fans were hating on Rick Tocchet during the season. They weren't liking the way he was treating the young players. But all Tocchet has done ever since being in Philadelphia is not just make the playoffs, but it seems like every player on his roster is having a career year. Look what Owen Tippett is doing under Tocchet. Look what Zegras is doing under Tocchet. Look what a young player like Porter Martone is doing under Tocchet, playing NHL games after coming from college. Even though they play a boring style of hockey, which is very defensive, he gets a lot out of his guys. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, goaltending becomes incredible under Tocchet's system. Dan Vladar, who was a backup in Calgary last year, is playing out of his mind, but it's not because he's making these, saves that are like, lateral movement, nonstop, stack the pads, whatever. It's because of the way that Tocchet coaches the team to play in front of his goaltenders, gives his goalies success. If you just go back to his time in Arizona, you see that goalies have better years under this coach than any other coaches. And I was thinking about this, Nick, and I want to get your thoughts on it. If there's one coach that can get the Edmonton Oilers over the top, I think it might be Rick Tocchet because he might be able to get goaltending out of guys like Connor Ingram and Tristan Jarry because of the way he coaches. It's like I don't know, maybe I'm maybe I'm too much of a Tocchet lover here, but I really do believe that the way he coaches, he gets the most out of his goalies.
He's going to have Connor McDavid down to 85 points a year, but they'll be better for the playoffs.
Hey, it's about winning cups.
Right? Yeah.
How
I don't
many
know exactly.
trophies does McDavid have to win before he wins a cup?
Yeah,
Right?
good point. But I don't. And unfortunately, I think he's long term secured in Philadelphia for a while now, at least for the moment. I think Dan Vladar's been a bit. You mentioned Dan Vladar. He's been a big piece, right? And he was, like you said, he was like sort of splitting time last season in Calgary with Dustin Wolf. He was taking the tough starts, right? And he's especially after the Olympic break for the Flyers. He's kind of come back. He's kind of come. He's had like a great little stretch, right? So he's been a big part of it. But I mean, in terms of the Pittsburgh side, right? You mentioned Stu Skinner. I mean, yeah, like good for you for getting the second round pick, but I mean, were you watching this guy in the playoffs at all last couple of years? Like this is an MO, right? He'll make some saves, but more often than not, he's going to let in those back-breaking goals that you need your, especially in high leverage moments in the playoffs, right? You need your goalie to make, and I think it was the Ristolainen and Sealer goals last night for you just can't let those in. You can't let those in, and like he did, and that's why the it's not the main reason. It's part of the reason, but it's a big part of the reason if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that Ristolainen goal was brutal. Like, because Pittsburgh came out flying to score the first goal of the game, and then the game just flipped on its head after that. Rust
I
and
think it was also game two. I think it was in game two as well. He let in a goal just like right through the five hole, or maybe it
yeah,
was game three.
it's incredible. It's honestly like like I'm shocked that they didn't go with Seelovs because I don't think there's that much of a gap between the two, but Seelovs doesn't let in that one through the wickets. I just believe that. Like
Yeah, and hey, he had like look at his that one playoff run in Vancouver, and look at the World Championships with Latvia. Like he can elevate his game in these high leverage moments. So yeah, it's I mean you're down 3-0. I assume he's gonna at least get the start tomorrow, or maybe they just go down with the ship with Skinner. I don't really know, but
Well,
Brian, the question. I don't know if he heard because he is an Oilers fan, so I just wanted to ask him the question.
your thoughts on Stu Skinner, stinking it up like once again in the playoffs.
first of
Not
all, I'm not an Oilers fan. I'm a Canucks fan. I just want McDavid to get like he's the best player. So I would
wait.
like following the Oilers, but it's a Stuart Skinner
There's
experience.
if there's a coach
Yeah.
that can get the Edmonton Oilers to the glory of winning the Stanley Cup, and I know this might be a little maybe too much for you to handle, but it might be Rick Tocchet. And the reason I say that, Brian, is just look at the numbers. Every goalie that plays under Rick Tocchet has incredible numbers. Dan Vladar was a backup in Calgary, and he's come to the Flyers and he's been unbelievable.
You know, when
Seahawks had that little run with
when the
Tocchet as well.
structure in front of the goalie is good and clean, the goalies can make saves because you see the pucks. Then, right, right now, if you're looking at, we watched a game two yesterday. The defensive side for the Oilers is pretty bad, right? It's pretty bad. I'm not like Ingram hasn't been the greatest himself, but you know, do I admit live right here that maybe Tampier's got a point in that? Maybe talk it, maybe guys like Torts, maybe these type of coaches can figure something. Look, just look what Torts is doing in Vegas, right? Seems like since he's been there, the structure has cleaned up. Players are playing more hard, and Carter Hart's making them saves look pretty damn easy, right? And same with Dan Vladar, career backup, has some decent numbers in, I think, Calgary last year, right? The structure, it's always about the structure with Rick Tocchet, going back to his Canucks days. When he was first hired, structure, 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 defense first, right? So, the Flyers got to get props. I'm not a big fan, of course. I'm not going to say I'm not a big fan. I just don't think he's in the echelon of the coaches that we think is great, but he's a good coach for what's going on. You got to give props to them, right? But I do think the series is over. That's the Pittsburgh's not coming back from 3-0, right? It's over, right? It's going to be over in 4 or 5, but the series is over. With the way the Flyers have been playing under Tocchet the last couple of months, it's over, right? So I do, and by the way, going back to your question about Stu Skinner, it's an experience. That's a Stu Skinner experience, right? I do think they should have gone with Seelov's game, the last game, right? Because if you watch today's game, Buffalo versus Boston, guess who was Buffalo's goaltender?
Lion, right?
Alex Lyon. It wasn't Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, UPL, right? So they went away from the starting goaltender. They needed a shift right after getting blown out game two.
And that's what sort of surprised me as well. Sorry to cut you off, Brian, is they've been splitting starts a lot during the regular season. Sort of like what, Luukkonen and Alex Line did for Buffalo, right? So so it was a bit shocking to me that they didn't make the switch after game two. It seemed like the easy one to make.
100%. It was right there, right? Seelovs has shown, even though Skinner has taken the two Stanley Cup finals, et cetera, but Seelovs has shown in his World Championship career with Latvia, AHL, the Calder Cup run, the Nashville playoff run with Vancouver, when he's on his game, this big moment, he's almost lights out, right? So if they had gone to game Seelovs in game three, maybe they pull one out, maybe a couple of stinkers don't go in. Like even I'll say this: the Ziegler slap shot from the on the power play goes in definitely, but a few others that squeaked in. 5-0 and Skinner probably don't go in, right?
Yeah, and I think for, also for the Pittsburgh, right? Their defense does not look good. Like a lot of their defensemen look slow, and I think another team that has looked slow in the playoffs so far is Vegas.
Oh,
I think
100%.
yeah, Utah skating circles around them, especially in that second game. I think they're pretty fortunate to, be up or at least tied 1-1 in that series. We'll see where the rest of the series goes. Like I said on this podcast before, I've always been a big fan. I've always been a believer in teams, having to earn their scars before, they achieve playoff success. So I think I'd still be shocked if Utah, or at least mildly shocked if Utah does, pull this thing out. But they look good so far, Tanvir.
They look faster, that's for
Yep.
sure. That goal that by Dylan Gunther, or well, the goal where he blew by Shea Theodore, and I think I don't know who was it that popped in the rebound there, but that speed was showing there. Um, I don't know about that series. That's a really tough one for me. The reason I left it off my series parlay, Nick. I was tempted to take Vegas there, but that Utah speed is something that worried me, and you're
Yeah.
seeing a little bit. But at the same time, Vegas, they've been hot since Torts took over. That was their first regulation loss since he took over, and Carter Hart's been playing well. I think eventually Vegas will get it done, but
It's very true what Nick and you are talking about. First of all, I think this might be the Western Conference series that's very hard to predict because Vegas just before Torts, they were going the other opposite way.
Yeah.
Torts comes in, the coaches bump we always talk about kicked in now their first regulation loss, but they look slow. They absolutely look slow. I think we were having this conversation on the spaces. The teams that they were beating, Vegas was beating during Torts' run. Vancouver, Seattle, Calgary. He squeaked out. I think they squeaked out a win against Edmonton, but bottom feeders of the Western Conference of the National Hockey League. Now you're going into more of the Utah territory, fast paced, skilled. The team's got a pretty good structure, pretty good defense, really good goaltender. But I think the defense looks very slow for the Vegas Golden Knights. And we talked about it on the space. I remember that. Is this a championship decor? This decor is pretty old, right? Yes, they have Theodore. The name brand is there. Theodore, Hannafin, Anderson. But Rasmus Anderson, I remember Tampa called it. He thinks he's not a top four defenseman. I'm on the borderline. Like maybe he's not, right? But
No,
Hannah, Braden McNabb is playing there. It's just the decor is very slow and it's getting old pretty fast back there.
I think of all this series, the one I've paid attention to the least has been Colorado, LA. That one seems like a wrap, right? Like I don't see any way that LA can come back and win the series, make it a series. I mean, as of recording right now, it's game three. I haven't checked the score. I haven't really watched the game, but
Two
that one
one
seems
Colorado.
part.
2-1 Colorado.
That one's the series I paid attention to the least because I
yeah,
think most people. I think we all know what's going to happen.
for sure. Like Colorado's too good for them, even though the Kings are trying to play a style of game that's trying to slow the Colorado Avalanche down offensively. Colorado still finds ways to win because Colorado's so good they could win in any possible way.
Well,
Uh, I expect this series to be a 4-game series, literally.
well, it's true. Like even if a high power offense in Colorado, a a team like LA's is making them look boring. We've talked about it many times that a team with McCarr, Natchez, and McKinnon should be running roughshod on these Kings team, but they're just playing that 1-3-1, and it's suffocating the Avalanche. Technically, like I never thought I would say it, but the Colorado Avalanche and the LA Kings is a very boring series.
The comeback in game two was somewhat exciting, but I think it's boring just in the sense that it's inevitable that Avs are going to win, right? Like we should all know it. At least with the other kind of one nominal 1-8 series, right? People can convince themselves that the Sens had a chance, right? With the way and the underlying numbers. Kings had no chance. Kings had no
Kings have
chance.
no chance. No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So let's move on. Uh, Brian, as a number one Oilers fan in Vancouver, do you all have anything to say about the Oilers being tied up with the Ducks, or?
Yeah, through the six periods, the Oilers have played five horrendous periods. Like David has nothing to show for. Drysaddle's had his points here and there, but I think his rust, he's missed almost 4 weeks almost. The depth scoring is there. Jason Dickinson's injury is really crucial. The goaltending, it might be a problem. And I do like Connor Ingram. I do like him better than Stuart Skinner, but he's allowing a lot of goals that shouldn't be going in. And now that could also be the defensive side has been really bad the first two games, especially last night. McDavid kind of looked kind of lazy out there. Maybe he's injured with that ankle sprain or whatever. Evan Bouchard looks like he's fucking lost. We've talked about it. It doesn't even seem like he's skating. He's just gliding. He's just going with the motions, right? But the scary thing is, out of the six periods, five they played worse, and it's 1-1 tied, right? We never thought it was going to be a 4-game sweep, or like I still think the what's it called, the Oilers going to pull this through. But the Ducks they're real, man. They're fun to watch, and they're going to make this a series. Maybe it's not five, maybe it goes six, but you know at 1-1 going into California, I think the Oilers are going to find their game and especially their power play. McDavid had a quote after the game saying that this power play will have something in the series, will be a factor in this series. So when your best player says that, well, damn, I'm excited for it. Let's go.
I don't even think I have to talk about the Oilers. I think Brian said it all. I'm not worried about them yet, but as they continue to advance in the playoffs, goaltending has to be better. Defensive structure has to be better. Not worried about McDavid. Not worried about Draisaitl. Not worried about their power play. we all know what the issues were going in, and those will still be the issues in the playoffs. Hopefully, they can figure that out for Brian's sake.
Canucks
Yeah.
fans are not gonna like this, but Vasily Podkolzin actually been a pretty good player in the playoffs so far.
He's been great for the Oilers since
Yeah.
we gave him to him for practically nothing. Stars Wild. Last night's game, I was watching in overtime with my roommate, and I made the comment after Dallas scored, like, I have no statistics to back it up, but in these overtime playoff games, it always seems like it's the puck over glass penalty that costs you, right? It's never the obvious slash or hook that you take that you score on. It's always the puck over glass penalty. So I like as soon as that happened, I turned to my roommate and I was just like, I got a good feeling that Dallas is going to score on this one out of all of them because both teams. It was a weird overtime in the sense that both teams had like two or at least two power plays each before then. Couldn't get anything going, but it's the puck over glass penalty that
With that much talent, I was not expecting double overtime. I was not
no.
expecting double overtime.
That was this series is it's probably like my top two series.
Yeah.
That one I've been heavily invested in.
It's a
Yeah,
very
they're
series.
all those games have been coin flips, except
Yeah,
I guess the first one.
and
But even
really,
then, going into it was a coin flip.
One thing with that series, I didn't know Quinn Hughes had a little edge to his game, a little feistiness on Mikko Rantanen there.
yeah. I'm
He
cheering.
also enjoys quitting on empty nets.
Yeah, I enjoyed cheering against him. Like I'm getting joy now that Dallas is up 2-1 in the series that I'm enjoying it a little bit. But this is a 7 game series written all over it. I can't wait to see what happens in games 4 or 5.
That play by Quinn Hughes on the empty netter, oh, that was not good. Canucks fans were ready for waiting for a moment like that.
Quit Hughes.
Quinn
Quit
Hughes,
Hughes,
yep.
yeah. And then one final series we can quickly talk about before we wrap up this episode for everyone. Buffalo, Boston. That first game was insane.
Wait, you forgot the best series. Tampa Bay Montreal. We still got to talk about that one as well.
Oh, okay. Let's start there because I think we'll have our thoughts on that. I think yeah, both games. That one I've been heavily invested in as well. Both games have been great. I still think Tampa, like I have a hard time quitting the Lightning. My when we did one of our very first episodes, my preseason Cup final prediction was Dallas Tampa.
Yeah.
So I feel like I gotta ride that until the wheels fall off. But that's been a great series, really feisty, really chippy as well, right? Which maybe we should have expected with two division rivals that are having good years. But great series like hey, out of all of the sorry, out of all the teams in the playoffs, Montreal has the biggest advantage at home, I'd say. So it's gonna, next the game tomorrow, or at least tomorrow when we're recording this on Friday, it's gonna be
Well, we're gonna hear
bonkers.
that crowd. We're gonna hear that crowd, especially after, and they're gonna be on Kucherov after the comments in the bubble Stanley Cup thing he said about the fans. That crowd's gonna be jumping. It's gonna be fun. The TV is gonna be shaking. I guarantee the TV is gonna be shaking.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. The games to go back to Montreal here. Uh, when we talked about it last week, we said Montreal was a 2-1 underdog, and we're seeing that the series is a lot closer
Yeah.
than 2-1 suggested by the books. Um, I feel good about Montreal in this series. Like, I know Tampa stole game 2, but I feel good about Montreal in this series. I think Montreal is going to pull it off, and this one also has 7 games written all over it as well, Nick. But man, like the one thing I will say that's a little concerning about Montreal right now is their top dogs haven't been their top dogs. Like
No.
I
Well,
like
on the power play they have
yeah,
on
but
the
lately
power play.
Hudson's been great. Slavkovsky had his moment in game 1, but Suzuki and Caulfield have to get going if they wanna win this series. And those guys haven't been the guys yet. But I think they will eventually figure it out. But Caulfield, smaller player playing in the playoffs, you know, let's see
He's
what
had
he's.
success before in the playoffs, being a small guy, right? But I'm 100% with you guys. That has 7 written all over it.
Mhm.
Mm.
And
And
the Buffalo one, of course, Buffalo won today 3-1, I think.
I
Um,
I was gonna yeah, so Buffalo obviously won today 3-1 as Brian just mentioned. I was gonna if Buffalo had lost that game, I would have been worried about them in this series. Like that could have been an easy tipping point for Buffalo. They're up 2-1, it's that can change, that can change, but I would have been worried for Buffalo if they had lost that game. I
I
think
think
it could have
another thing.
it could have spiraled quickly for them in that series if they had lost that game. But I think now, obviously, it's got, there's. I think I said I predicted Buffalo in six. I'm sticking with it. I mean, there's that second. I mean, I think now it's Alex Lyons net to lose, right? I don't think you're going to go back to Luukkonen unless Lyon has lets in a goal from center like Luukkonen did, right?
But
Yeah,
here's another thing. I think this could potentially go seven as well because the Boston Bruins have shown it all year. When you think they're dead, they come back.
yeah,
We thought the Bruins were going to be one of those bubble teams, but these guys had fucking 100 points.
yeah.
100 points, right? So I think that's got six. That's gonna be a back and forth as well. But I can't predict that one, even though I
I
want to
think
see Buffalo because
I
of the
think the
crowd.
crowd in Buffalo is gonna power them through it in Game
Yeah,
Seven.
yeah.
But I don't know if sometimes the Game Seven up at home, the nerves and everything can get to you, right? But I don't know. I feel like Buffalo is going to win this series. They've been the better team, I feel like, throughout the series. Boston seems to score the first goal every game,
Yeah.
but it feels like Buffalo is always out shooting them and having the puck more. And, Swayman's been good for Boston. So, yeah, I need Buffalo to win this series for futures bets, but I do believe that Buffalo will get it done, and winning today helps a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to add playoff wise before we wrap this one up?
I think we got every series covered, right? We're good.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree. I
At
think we
least some brief
covered.
thoughts on it.
I just don't like there's no Canadian teams playing on a Saturday night, but that's for a different day. But overall, I think it's been fun. It's going to continue, and I think by next week we might have few. By next week when we record again, we might have a couple series already done.
Well, it looks like Philadelphia and Carolina are already ready to play each other, right? So yeah, we'll have some series matched up probably by next week.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Thanks again to Alex Blair for joining us on the podcast and for everyone listening. For myself, Vic Bondi, Tambier, Brian, this has been another episode of Strictly Hockey Talk.